If you're a visibly disabled person, the chances are that somebody, often a complete stranger, will have come up to you and said something like, gosh, if I was like you, I couldn't go on. I'd rather be dead.
I've had it said to my face, in front of people. I've had it said at work. A friend saying, well, you know, if your condition progresses to the point where you can't kill yourself, you know that I'd be happy to do it for you. And this wasn't someone I was particularly close to.
If my life was like yours, I'd want to kill myself.
He actually told me that I should go and kill myself because you know, then I'd stop being a drain on society.
See? Better off dead. You probably think that looking like me, I'd be campaigning for the choice to ask a doctor to put me out of my misery if things ever get that bad. You know, assisted dying.
A group of academics backing proposals on assisted dying.
We have to make sure that people can have an assisted death.
She is considering the option of assisted
dying. But I prefer to call it what it is, assisted suicide. If you think this is just about terminal illness, think again. This is about disability. And for me, and others, that is terrifying.
There's lots of nasty illnesses you might get.
There is no journey here, no one-way ticket to Switzerland. Would you go with me to Switzerland to Dignitas if I had wanted that?
I would never have agreed to that.
I'm really clear what my views are on this subject, and they will remain the same in the end. I only know that because we're filming this at the end. There have been many TV documentaries on this subject, but not one from our perspective, from disabled people like me, who aren't religious, who are just really afraid of these laws. So this is an attempt to redress that balance.
To want to kill yourself over who wipes your backside.
It's coming at us from all angles, like a pincer movement.
The law is changing in a lot of places. Watch this space for after the election.
These laws, I believe, will put lives like mine, marginalised lives, at risk. And those risks will be fatal.
No assisted dying law can be 100% safe. Imagine choosing death over homelessness.
That was marking time.
All because of the dangerous assumption that some of us are better off dead.
Just look at me.
Am I stuck properly?
Yeah, you're beautifully stuck. There we go.
Would you do me?
Of course I would.
Great. It's just theoretical.
I know.
You might know me as an actor, I would like to presume. I was for 8 years in the BBC's forensic drama Silent Witness.
Inspector C. Clark. Injured in the line of duty.
Larissa Mullery, injured in the line of gestation. And now I find myself, in big shows. How did that happen? I don't know. I had no idea till my 30s that I was ever going to be an actor. Came late in life.
I get an excuse to dress up. And be in medieval times, have a wooden wheelchair. I love all that stuff.
So why leave the red carpet behind to come and make a documentary about not legalising assisted suicide? I want to talk it through with a friend of mine. Have I got that Claudia, that Winkleman fringe?
We both have. Now you look beautiful.
Now you look beautiful. You. Lisa Hammond is one of my good friends. You might recognise her from the telly. Grange Hill, Vera, EastEnders.
Where do we form most of our opinions about the world? From what we consume, from the media. Everything from documentaries to sport to entertainment, reality TV, all of that. We are not represented. And if we are represented in those arenas, well, it's usually like charity cases. Yeah.
Documentaries about looking for a cure.
Looking for a cure, or inspiration porn, i.e. superhuman narratives, Paralympics, or you're suffering so badly, you're in terrible pain, or you become disabled and you now want to kill yourself.
Sad music.
Yeah, plinky plonky.
Always the journey always ends badly or well, depending on what you want, in Switzerland at a death clinic.
And if you believe all that you see, why wouldn't you think you'd want to end it if that's the case? It's like Me Before You.
Yeah, of course, Me Before You. Attractive, young, rich, smart young man.
Yeah.
Has an accident, becomes a wheelchair user, falls in love with his hapless carer.
Of course, yeah.
And then, like in all good rom-coms, he goes off to Dignitas to die.
Yes, classic ending.
And the world will definitely be a better place without me.
No. No, it won't.
The hashtag was live boldly, because at the end, he's like, I don't want you to have to look after me. I don't want to keep going. I'm going to leave you some money, and you go off and live a life. The message of the film, live boldly, go forward, unless you're disabled.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's the first time, isn't it, that I think internationally
everyone came out,
disabled people
and was like, this is not okay.
We feel that you're saying that they were better dead than disabled. We want rights, not tragedy.
Rights, not tragedy! Rights, not tragedy! Rights, not tragedy!
It's the glorification of our choice to die.
Definitely.
It's the right thing to do for ourselves and our families and society. I didn't think I'd ever live on my own, have a partner, have a career, have mates, you know.
Why would you think that's possible? Like, that's crazy. That's craziness. Why wouldn't you need and want to die in that case?
It was the media portrayal of assisted suicide that ultimately confirmed to me that it is about disability.
Almost 800 Britons are on a waiting list to die at Dignitas.
There are some people who perhaps don't want to wait until the very end.
She's a prisoner of her own body, serving a sentence that will only end with her death.
My first BBC appearance was live on Newsnight back in 2008, opposing assisted suicide, of course.
If a non-disabled person wants to commit suicide, it's a tragedy. As soon as a disabled person does, you know, it's a relief.
Let me show you what I mean. If you saw someone on a bridge about to jump, would you stand by and let them do it? Would you support them in the name of choice and autonomy? No. You would probably intervene and suggest that they get help. But if it was a disabled person, would your response be the same? Or would you see their decision to end their life as understandable, even inevitable? Many of us feel that assisted suicide creates a two-tier system. Suicide prevention for some, suicide approval for others. I've not always been disabled, but my experience of becoming so might help explain my views. Yes, it's that time in the documentary where I go to visit my mum.
March 1981. You started back at school and you said that you didn't feel like a child like the rest of the class.
At the age of 7, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. It was serious, rare, like winning the lottery rare, and it completely changed my life.
June 1982, you weren't well again, and you still got depressed. But the new school is better, as the girls don't make fun of you. Okay?
I like that. That's almost like a high point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess to that comparison, you know, I was there and I was not Queen Bee, but I was one of the popular kids kind of thing.
And in the school plays.
And then I become not that person.
Yeah.
I become the person that people are scared of.
Yeah.
The other kids are frightened of. I mean, I think that's hard. Your kind of status changes hugely.
Absolutely. Yeah. November 1984, she is very lonely. She gets very down and often says she wants to die rather than carry on, as she can't see any good in the future for herself. And you are only 12 years old.
I just didn't have any memory of actually saying that I had wanted to die. And a frightening thing for me would be if that was possible.
Yeah.
Because if you took those who love me away, or you took my career away from me, you took my care package away from me.
Life would be very different.
It would be very different. But would you go with me to Switzerland to Dignitas if I had wanted that?
I would never have agreed to that.
Wouldn't you?
No way.
No, but Mum, you've supported everything else.
Yeah,
not,
but not
to
I'm not going to lose you, but whatever. No way. No.
I wish I could travel back in time and tell younger me the truth, that life, an imperfect but pretty bloody good life, awaited me. I found my tribe, other disabled people, disability politics, a different way of viewing the world, and activism. Yeah. I saw disability in a completely different way. I saw it as the barriers in society and not me as the problem. Changed my life, absolutely. I'm in Vancouver with my mum and my wife Jo. I've been here on holiday before, but this trip's a bit different.
I'm going down the slippery slope.
Assisted suicide, when you're supplied with lethal medication to take yourself, and euthanasia, when a doctor does it for you, were both legalised in Canada in 2016. It's a government-funded scheme delivered through its public health system and is called Medical Assistance in Dying, but everyone in Canada knows it as MAID. In the beginning, yes, to qualify you had to be terminally ill with a reasonably foreseeable death, but that safeguard didn't last long. Now normally, I hate this gratuitous shot in assisted suicide documentaries. A disabled person looking sorrowfully out of the window, the world outside, somber music playing, but I couldn't resist. From my room, the building where we're going today, I could see it, and it's this just everyday building, and that's where the person I'm first meeting works. I'm off to see Ellen Weeb, a doctor who's performed hundreds of euthanasias. I feel quite nervous. My head's full of, what shall I ask her? What do we talk about? And also, will I like her? Will I enjoy meeting her? You know, all those sort of confusing things. Don't eat anything. Don't drink anything.
Don't sign anything.
But I also want to know things that I think you don't see and hear about normally. Somebody's died. There's been a death of someone. Whatever we feel about this subject. So what? What is the room like when it's done? How does everyone else feel, and how does she feel? Hello. Hi, I'm Liz. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for
Nice
seeing
to
me.
meet
You too. Should we do hands and whatever? Are we very formal? Or do we not? I don't know.
We don't need to be formal, but we also don't need to touch hands.
Fine, good. So you do this work actually here? Sometimes.
Most people want to die in their own homes.
Yeah.
And so I would be in their home. And of course, many people are in hospital, in hospice, in care homes. And then there are people who don't feel comfortable dying at home. For example, they don't want their spouse to have to deal with their memory of them dying in their home. So then they come here, and this is a recliner. And so people recline here, and they can snuggle up with their loved ones if they want. And so it's a good place for some people.
Mm-hmm. According to law, each MAID applicant must make a written request signed by an independent witness and have 2 independent medical assessments.
So this is the one that has to be signed in front of an independent witness.
And who would that be if I...
It has to be somebody who is not in the will and not a direct caregiver like me.
Could you a receptionist or...
Yes,
like
because
that,
they're not directly involved in care.
How many maid deaths have you been involved with?
Over 400.
Okay. That sounds like a lot. Is that what you do now? Is that
No, I still run a contraception and abortion clinic in addition to my maid work.
Would you ever say no?
Of course, I have. Oh, yes. I mean, we have a law, and I obey this law. And so there are people who are not eligible under the law. Now, there are the situations where I might find somebody not eligible or eligible when another person won't because of the way our law is written.
In your experience, what do you think the number one reason that people want made?
The number one reason is autonomy, control.
And what?
And everybody's different in what they think of as autonomy and control.
Yeah. So that would be about not wanting to lose that in their lives.
Yes, control. They desperately want control. Like they want to say, it's now. And we say, okay, well, I can get back here at 7 o'clock. Is that okay? And they'll say yes, and they'll be so grateful that they can skip the last 2 days of their life. And I look at it and think, all you really needed was some more drugs. But you want my drugs, I'll give them to you.
Apart from the fact I don't have the desire, I think probably I would be eligible under the Canadian law.
Well, you'd have to be suffering unbearably, and you'd have to convince me that you were suffering unbearably.
And from what you said, don't worry, I know you're not going to do anything here now. And I'm not scared. Yeah, I'm not scared. But I guess what I'm saying is there could be somebody next to me with exactly the same condition.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to go on anymore.
I've certainly met people who are no more disabled than I am, saying that life is not acceptable in this state. And I would say, you and I are different, but not different in the sense of wanting to have some control. So, Liz, right now you love life and you want to live, but there's lots of nasty illnesses you might get.
Yeah.
And if you got terminal cancer and you were having to deal with chemotherapy and radiation, wouldn't you be thrilled that if you had the choice to say, I'll go this far and no further?
For me, I'm concerned that giving the option and the right to a group of people puts another group of people at risk. But I don't feel that you see that as a worry.
What you're saying is to protect what you consider vulnerable people. You are condemning others to unbearable suffering. Unbearable suffering. And I am so glad that I'm a Canadian and that we have this law so that people can choose that or not choose that. But to say that somebody has to suffer like that is simply cruel.
Do you love your job?
I love my job. You know, I've always loved being a doctor, but, and I delivered over 1,000 babies, and I took care of, families. But this is the very best work I've ever done in the last 7 years. And people ask me why, and I think, well, doctors like grateful patients. And nobody is more grateful than my patients now and their families.
Let's chat. Let's get out of here. In the first year, over 1,000 Canadians ended their life using MAID. Only 6 years later, the annual figure had leapt to over 13,000. Incidentally, the Canadian Medical Association has published an analysis showing how MAID could possibly save its public healthcare system hundreds of millions of dollars.
So, I'm here to make a documentary.
Yeah.
And it's on MAID.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not a comedy.
No.
Maybe it would be funny if the pace of expansion wasn't quite so scary. There are now 2 pathways, or tracks as they're officially called, to access medical assistance in dying. MAID for terminally ill people is track 1. This is now a fast track, allowing people to be assessed and euthanized all within 24 hours. But since 2021, there's a new pathway, track 2. This extends the law to those with a medical condition who are suffering unbearably, but whose death is not reasonably foreseeable. The assessment period for this track is 90 days. So track 2 makes MAID accessible to disabled people who aren't terminal. Both tracks have the safeguard of a sign-off by 2 medical professionals, but it's become clear that there can be significant loopholes.
This is one of my favorites.
Well, you look alike. Alicia Duncan's mum, Donna, was involved in a minor car accident resulting in concussion. During the months that followed, Donna's health declined, but the exact cause remained a mystery.
My mom speculated that she had something called central sensitivity syndrome, that the car accident had triggered. What we didn't know is that she was restricting her diet. She would say that it would hurt to eat solid food, so she was pureeing everything, having soups. She was very paranoid. She worried that if she left the house, she might be shot by a sniper at any moment. And I think that's when we really started becoming extremely concerned that this might be a mental health issue.
And this was completely uncharacteristic to your mum?
Completely uncharacteristic. My mom was a highly educated psychiatric nurse.
How did MAID enter the equation?
I received a text message from my mom's common law partner. He wanted us to know that my mom was in the beginning stages of looking into MAID. We just thought there was no way. There was no way she would be approved. And my sister went to go see her and asked, how did the assessment go? And she said, do you want to know? And my sister said yes. And she said, I've been approved. So we had less than 48 hours notice that my mom was going to die.
For Donna's own safety, her daughters gathered enough evidence to have their mum taken into custody under the Mental Health Act.
I pled with a doctor because, of course, my mom was a psychiatric nurse who knew all of the right things to say. At the end of the 48-hour hold, they did another assessment. We received a text message from my mom's partner that evening that my mom was dead and her body had been taken to a crematorium.
Donna was approved for track 1 of MAID, the fast track, on the basis that her condition was terminal. But her daughter disputes this.
My mom wasn't terminal, and she wasn't facing imminent death. However, if you're depressed and you starve yourself to the point that you are malnourished, they can bump you up to track 1 and you can die right away.
But if you were behaving like that, wouldn't that suggest there was mental health issues going on?
It would, but if you've starved yourself, that's physical. My mom had been approved by the head of the MAID program and a nurse practitioner. The second assessment, it was done over the phone. He never saw my mom.
They had no relationship with your mom?
None.
They were not her doctors?
No. And her general practitioner, who had been her GP for 20 years, would not approve her to die.
I don't know how you move on from that.
And I feel guilt for not fighting harder, for not, I don't know, kidnapping her and taking her into the woods and keeping her safe, you know?